Good morning, everyone. You may end up hearing my kid babbling in the background. 20-month-olds tend to do that, and he's of that age where he likes to be very, very vocal. So hope everyone's doing well. I woke up to some very uplifting news this morning when I hopped on the old internet machine, and I'm sure a lot of you did too when you saw, people trying to, take out law enforcement officers again overnight, this time with bleach added to food. That was a spiritually uplifting thing to find this morning. As well as somebody, defending themselves and guarding a statue, and then is going to end up getting arrested for it. So here we go. Just another day in paradise. Hope everyone is doing okay this morning. Good morning to everybody who said good morning in the stream. Apologies to everybody who tried to show up to the Sunday stream. I scheduled it for the usual time I try to schedule it, and either I clicked something wrong or this platform did or misinterpreted my instructions. I don't know what happened on Sunday, but I showed up, got home, went online at the usual, and it was like, hey, you're finally here. Teresa Nelson, you asked what happened. Well, there's the something happened at a Steak and Shake. Maybe I'll just find an article and pop it in the chat for you. If I can find a source that isn't completely just stupid. Which is why, of course, I go to Google, right? Because they're going to give me a straight thing. Wow. So far, nothing. That's spooky. That is really spooky. Okay, hold on. I'm going to Twitter to see this. Okay. So yeah, this happened overnight at a Steak and Shake in New York City. Basically, somebody tried to put bleach in the food of some law enforcement officers who went to get meals while they were on the clock, and they didn't really harm them, not too much. I mean, they had a kind of nasty physical reaction, had to run to the bathroom or something, but that was about it. The cops ended up going and investigating what happened, and it was done on purpose, but no one got arrested because of course not. That is just the nature of the way things are right now. Did I have a good St. Vitus Day yesterday? I didn't observe St. Vitus Day. Maybe that's a personal failing of mine. I got a lot of dissertation revision done yesterday, if that's what you mean. Endangered species is correct. They did put glass in some pizza there, too. And a lot of us are sitting around wondering, where's the government response in all this? Because there has to be one coming. The critical warning letter was sent to police about it. Hoping the people there got fired, at the very least fired, if not arrested. But, just another day in paradise, right? And I'm seeing the effect that I thought was going to happen with all of this, that there are going to be some supporters of the current president who are feeling very black-pilled about all the things and threatening to stay home, which I think it might actually be the purpose of all this. Sinistera, I did hear about Chaz, how they changed their name to Chop and started chanting about what happened to people in the French Revolution. It didn't. So, right, you know what I have a solution to the Chaz. My solution to the Chaz, or the Soviet Union, or Antifa-stan, or whatever you want to call it. My solution is simply to surround the place with police and military and don't let anybody in or out. That's my solution. I might be weird, though. Good morning to people. Good morning to all you just joining us. Yep, tensions are rising in the Koreas as well. They apparently the North Koreans decided to detonate the joint meeting center they had there near the border into the demilitarized zone, which is just great. Maybe they're looking over and seeing that the United States is in no position to do much of anything. Anybody having trouble right now? I'm getting a YouTube not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming warning. Yavo, The guy in the Chaz is handing out the warlord there is handing out weapons. Wow. The problem is almost none of them know how to use it. Like, a lot of us have seen footage of the John Brown Club up there, and they don't know what they're doing. Most of them don't when they're at the range. They're marginally more dangerous than the typical people on the street there who don't like those kind of weapons. That's about it. Wakanda, yeah, I saw that one too. Honestly, this is Captain Birdseye. That's my thought too, that they wouldn't last a week without their vegan meals. So that's actually one of the reasons why I suggest first surrounding the place and preventing things from getting in or out, and then second, probably shutting down most communications out of there, including water. But I'm kind of ruthless about this stuff. I don't have any tolerance for communists. Teresa, you don't understand why the police chief stepped down after the tasing thing? It's because right now the law enforcement can do no right. There's nothing they can do that's right in the eyes of the radicals. And social media platforms are boosting the radicals' voices. That's why. Thomas Keller, your solution is... Well, the place what you're referring to, I talk about sending them to summer camps where they learn to concentrate. But, that's... I don't actually endorse that. It's just a terrible joke. Raymond, you say my solution is exactly what you thought turned into of warfare. Not let matter. Do not allow anyone to be delivered to them. The only problem is there are 500 innocent people who live there. Although, from what I understand, it's sort of the... trying to think of a famous district like this in other places. But it's very much the James Martin kind of neighborhood that they took over, which is strangely appropriate for some reason. Have I seen the Antifa Fight Club? Yeah, you're talking about the Mr. O'Keefe's footage? Yeah, I've seen parts of it. Why are they cleaning the bathrooms for them? That is a good question, Xenia. Why don't they just let them run the place like they want until somebody finally has the guts to send in the non-lethal response? Remember, the channel RN2 law says to change the radicals, we need to fast. The Virgin Mary has said this. Yes. Has it occurred to anybody to have masses said for a peaceful resolution to the things going on in the country right now? I don't know. To fast, to do acts of penance ourselves and have priests say masses makes you wonder. Dangerous Species says a test missile from the sub off the coast of France headed toward the east coast carrying 6 to 10 more and 75 on each. Our jammed our signal. We failed miserably to intercept it. This is real. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I do know that yesterday the T-Mobile, Comcast, AT&T wired networks went down in what was very obviously either something done by Anonymous or by some foreign country probing our defenses. Captain Birdseye, you can't imagine that 100 years ago if communists did this, they would get anything short of... Yeah, you're right, generally. I mean, but America... I mean, let's go look at this. There's a biological angle to everything going on right now. If you look at, historically, what has happened with just public health in this country, and I'm not talking about obesity, although as a fat guy, I'll tell you, that's a real problem, and I'm doing something about it in my own life. But something like 99% of the world's population tests positive for near toxic levels of plastics in the bodies. Testosterone levels in the West have dropped into the floor, and at the same time, this is almost perfectly. You can almost perfectly plot this on a chart for the increase of soy products in the food supply. I mean, plus rampant consumerism, the spread of more and more television and internet and everything else, and it's affecting our just the things that drive us biologically. It isn't being repeated in other large cities since there are so few repercussions. Give it time, Randall. Give it time. They're getting away with everything. And any citizen groups who stand up against them, they're the ones getting arrested. RN2 law churches here, some are closed. It's horrid. You found a church that is not closed. Do you think we are already dividing? Where are you at? Roughly where are you at? I mean, you don't need to dox yourself, but you can... I do think I think we are headed towards the fulfillment of Fatima. That's what I think we're heading towards. Because the consecration wasn't done, Almost no one keeps the 5 first Saturdays. No one took the Fatima message seriously. The modernists co-opted Fatima and lied to everybody and said it had all been taken care of. I think we're heading towards its fulfillment. Yeah, but this is all not about protecting those. Not in the majority. It's about projecting our current system and tear it down and replace it with something else. Solve et coagula, Yavo. Remember that phrase. That is what this is about. I have a video for you all, probably Thursday, by the way. That is something that occurred to me about the Vigano thing that no one is talking about. It's some more context with that a lot of people haven't noticed. And when I put it up, if you'd share it, it'd be really good. That'll be on Thursday. Thomas Keller, yeah, Tried Patrick did put out 2 videos in one day. His second one was just very angry because of that Supreme Court case yesterday, which we can't even really talk about other than say farewell and adieu to young women's sports in this country. They're going to go away. They're pretty much going to, because you're going to end up having, quote unquote, you're going to have I have to be very careful how I say this, but you're going to have people who those sports were not intended for now playing in them, and it's going to destroy the games. And most normal people aren't going to want to watch. Maud asks, why is Trump doing so little about the current chaos? Because the Constitution doesn't let him. The governors and the mayors have to. The Constitution does not let him. This is why I find it funny that Americans idolize the Constitution. The Constitution isn't that good, honestly. It doesn't permit him to do anything unless he actually invokes the Insurrection Act, which Lincoln did, and it was unconstitutional when he did that, but the courts haven't had the guts to overturn it. He would have to literally violate the U.S. Constitution, and if you don't see where that would lead him, there's a group in Congress right now itching for him to do that. I should probably lay off the secular politics, though, because that's a good way to get nuked. Airstrip 1 TV, communion in the hand with a face mask can't end well. No, it can't end well. The communion in the hand is just a terrible idea in general. A lot of people don't understand how it is that Satanists are so easily getting the sacred host now out of the parishes, but that's what's happening. You heard that the new catechism is coming or here? There might be a print of the new catechism with Francis's sort of editorializing of the death penalty, but I don't know. Speaking of plastics and food, what are my take on immunizations and diseases? I'm not a scientist, so I don't trust like mommy bloggers on that issue, but I generally think that most new of the immunizations should be really looked seriously into before you get one. Go look to see what's in it. Desktop says, I am down for any trial or tribulation where no, it is in good hands. It's just waiting for it then. Yeah, I know. Joe, I had to approve your comment there. Seven Sorrows Mission Rosaries. I do not advise, Joe, putting your email address in the chat. That's a very, very good way for you to have people sending you really grotesque stuff. Just as a throw that out there. Thomas Keller, if women's sports go away, then at least something good came from that ridiculous decision. Yeah, can you imagine what would happen if the WNBA suddenly became the home of a bunch of failed NBA prospects? That would be funny. Hosts have been left in a basket in Sweden. Well, it's a good thing Sweden doesn't have a history of Satanism, right? Oh, wait. James Orth, yeah, you're right. Well, you see, here's the thing. The Supreme Court never was given that power to do what they did yesterday. They took it for themselves very early on, and they've just kept it. It's amazing. By the way, Portuguese cardinal discourages communion on the tongue. Christ said, take and eat mouth. Okay. Stay away from a live virus inoculation. A leader just gave Benedict a copy of Kissinger's book. Which Kissinger's book? Which book by Kissinger? I mean, I don't know which one you mean. Would you rather have $5 your local WNBA team win a championship? $5. You ever try to watch the WNBA games? They're very, very dull. Daniel Abraham, we are not called to be pacifists. You have a duty to protect your family. yes, we can give our lives up for the Red Crown, as it were, but that doesn't mean letting a mob or intruders harm your family. That's modernist thinking. Forget the apostles were at that point sacerdotal. Blessings to all from PDX. Well, Pink Nickel Vids, that's my old hometown. I wish you safety and hope everything is going okay, and heard that your guys' lack of freedom has been extended there. LR says, do I think Matt Walsh is going to wake up fully, or will he be made to heel by his paymaster? I would keep an eye on Matt Walsh. So if you're not familiar, Matt Walsh works for the Daily Wire, which is very much a conservative ink outlet, and I'm not a fan in the slightest of pretty much anybody out of there. But it's been fascinating to watch Walsh go publicly and just hit very hard on very uncomfortable topics related to everything going on. He's doing this mostly on Twitter. I'd make a video about it, but I can't. That's how spicy he's been getting. And so some of us are expecting he's going to be, quietly told to lay off. But we'll see. If Obama thought Biden was so good, why didn't he just step aside as president? Let Biden comment. Michael of Angels reminds us that our Lord said nothing against defending yourself as long as we aren't the aggressor, we're fine. Yeah, and even then, Thomas Keller is not a fan of Matt Walsh. I had to approve that comment, by the way. I say that a lot. Yes, Teresa Nelson, most dissenting opinions on that issue do find themselves magically getting erased from the internet. It's very strange. Very, very strange. Teresa Nelson reminds you, if you're voting for the Moloch Party's nominee, you're probably voting for their vice presidential candidate, which is true. It's looking like it's going to be the I can't even. There's jokes that I could tell to point out who they're talking about, but it's hard to do it. But what are my thoughts on the upcoming annual Peters Pence collection scheduled? Certainly a good way to defund the mess in Rome. Yeah, I don't give to Peters Pence anymore. What I would do with that money is see if there's a way you can find a seminarian to sponsor, a good seminarian from a good traditionalist group, whatever that means to you, and find a way to help them out. Buy one of their textbooks for them with that money. Buy their cassock if they're reached the point in seminary where they're permitted to wear one. Help fund, their mission trip that they're required to go on. All that stuff. That's what I would do instead of the Peters Pence collection. You are required to support the work of the church, and I can't think of a better way of supporting the work of the church than to help the young men who want to go and give their lives to be good priests. Or there are also groups of young women out there who are looking to become consecrated religious or nuns with religious orders, but they still have student debt. And there are groups out there that help them fundraise to pay off their student debt. You can help them with that as well. James Orth, don't apologize for needing to go to go to confession. Trust me, being on your way to confession is a good thing. Just drive safely. Let's see. I'm going to see what's else is going on. The Life site has a delightful headline. I'll sanitize it, but Italian bishop's employee uses Pope Francis's teaching to call on the church to accept the James and Martin lifestyle. Apparently they wrote a book, and it attempts to redefine chastity to no longer mean absolute continence for people with the kind of tendencies James Martin wants to build a bridge to. So there you go. There you go. Okay, Endangered Species. The book is World Order. Okay. You're staying... Pink and Nickel Vid, you're staying by Portland State with your oldest daughter and her family for now. Oh, okay, that's right. We've chatted via email. Your youngest graduated from high school last year. He's in the U.S. Army in Poland. Wow. That's right. Yeah, you and I have chatted via email before. I used to live on the Portland State campus before I moved out here. AMDG, you wish you were going to confession today. Yeah, I wish I was going to. I definitely need to go. Let's see. If you're hearing that chime, it means people are, subscribing, which is great. Because right now, well, I have crossed 50,000 subscribers. That's pretty cool. Oh, maybe this Sunday I'll do a 50,000 subscriber celebration stream or something. But That's definitely not, that was not expected quite this early in June. Yeah, J.F. Shred, if you like those or those priestly fraternities, please go ahead and give that to that instead. I cannot endorse Peter's Pence, at least under the current situation. And it's so weird to say that because Peter's Pence should be something we should have no problem giving to. You know that the Knights of Columbus will donate a proper chalice when one of the knights passes away, and that chalice is usually given in the name of the knight to a seminary who can't afford his own. That's really good to know. That's also sounds like a legitimate good charity then, if you can find out if from your local Knights chapter if they're decent to, maybe help fund something like that. Blue Healer, so happy people are even permitted to be promiscuous. They're being allowed to take over. Well, Blue Healer, check this out. Remember when Humanae Vitae was released, what was the response from the bishops? Most of the bishops overtly rejected it. They overtly rejected the teaching of the church on that. Strange, isn't it? How they were able to get away with that. And that's, we're still seeing that spirit running all through things. A Simple Crusader, you are wrong about Belloc. Belloc was not a socialist, and nothing gets me more angry than him getting called a socialist. Anybody who tells you he's a socialist doesn't know what they're talking about. I have a book on my shelf that condemns that idea and points out that the accusation that Belloc was a socialist came from a book written by one of his enemies that also called him a Satanist. They barely mention the socialist accusation because they point out in the book that if you're taking ideas from a book like that is an error, and that anybody who does that has no credibility. And I don't think any of the people in the public square making that accusation against him have any credibility on Catholic social teaching. You can tell I'm getting heated by this. It's a stupid idea. Yeah, no. Don't even push that idea in my comments or in my chat. The new chastity was taught decades ago. This is why they got into it so heavily. It's not a sin for them. Yeah, that's welcome to relativistic thinking. So they already saved regardless of the behavior. Well, I don't know. You'll have to ask that employee of that bishop. All I can tell you is that that they're continuing to push this. It makes you wonder why they're such advocates for that. Let's see. And it's weird. I can't even cover what the bishops are promoting in the United States right now because they would nuke us. Pink Nickelvid, you went to college near the Seattle Autonomous Zone. Capitol Hill was the favorite hangout of the notorious anti-imperialist George Jackson Brigade. They were narco-commies. No wonder they took that place over. T-Storm, you don't know if it's each chapter that does this, but I know that when your grandfather passed away, they were presented with a chalice, and it was our choice to choose a seminary to give it to. Oh, okay, very good. Your parents bought chalices, and the rest for priests in your family was great, appreciated. Simple Crusader, yeah, no, sorry if I got really snappy. Belloc is somebody I really admire, and he has gotten slammed for a lot of things. You notice, though, the easiest thing to slam him on, no one ever takes him down on. And the easiest thing is that he wrote a book called The Hebrews, except it wasn't called The Hebrews, and it's his most notorious book. And he is traditionally slammed as being what we call around here an anti-Hebrewite. That's not a good charge against him either. He says famously in the introduction of that book that if he were standing up, if the World War II German war machine was bearing down on the last member of that group in Europe, he would stand in front of that tank to protect them, because what they were doing was wrong and evil, and he recognized that. That having been said, he has been slammed a lot because he was probably the most well thought out of all the group of people promoting these ideas. He and Chesterton, for instance, said that the problem with capitalism wasn't that there wasn't enough capitalists, and they didn't endorse the idea that the government do the getting property into people's hands, widespread property into people's hands. They said it might be necessary, but they didn't endorse that idea. They said their ideas were something that the people had to do themselves. And how do you do that? Through the evangelization, through the spreading of the gospel. Because you can see, once the gospel is spread, you can see and you really dive deep and understand what the church has taught and its gospel and its bearing on the Eucharist and the gospel for Catholic social teaching. You begin to see how disordered things are. Beyond that, who knows? But he's not a socialist, because the socialist believes in the centralization of property in the hands of the government in the name of the people. But it's always in the hands of the government. And these are people who hate, Chesterton, Belloc, Father Pesch, Father McNabb, their peers. They all hated the state, or at least they hated socialism and wanted their state to be small. They wanted their state to be so small and distant that it didn't do much unless it absolutely had to. But yeah, I get heated on this topic. The people of CHOP have lessons to learn, and that will take some time. Let it happen. It's the only way some of them learn. That's true. I mean, it's the really unfortunate thing is most of the people there, they're like kids. College age or younger for the most part. That's why they're getting taken advantage of. Thomas Keller, did Gomez say something reasonably Catholic sounding? And that's why everyone is like, hooray. LR says, if your local Knights Council isn't very good, consider joining. If you are a third degree, you can become an officer. Then set about relieving all the modernists of their positions of authority. This is true. You can do that. This is, by the way, the long march through the institutions. What LR describes right there is exactly what the enemies of the church did to the universities, to Hollywood, to the entire political system. I mean, turn on ESPN right now. They're not covering sports really. Everything was done that way. Thoughts on Pope Benedict bringing the Anglican Catholics in full communion under the personal ordinariate? As long as they're, I mean, I don't have an issue with that. I mean, the Anglican Church is on the verge of collapse. Is there an actual list of words you can't say, or is it all presumed from strikes on other YouTubers? It's strikes from other YouTubers, me noticing things that I have to approve here in the chat. I had... the Vigano video I did yesterday, the reactions to Vigano, I had a different title for it, and immediately the video was not approved by the channel, by our hosts. I simply changed the title, I deleted it, changed the title, re-uploaded it, and changed the title, and all of a sudden it was fine. There are words, and it's a growing list too. Iron Cross, if you just quote traditional church teaching, you are labeled a bad person, and this is true. Teresa Nelson, he's talking about, LR is referring to joining the Knights of Columbus, which for a woman is a little harder. But you can join the Knights of Columbus and then fundamentally change its direction back to what it used to be. Blue Healer says he's a 4th degree Knight. The Knights do wonderful work at the local level, but Supreme seems to be forced to swallow all of the nonsense coming out of Rome. That's not surprising, but it can be done. Airstrip 1 TV says H.G. Wells and George Bernard Shaw were the socialist writers in Britain at the time of Belloc. Yes, and they hated Belloc. In fact, usually the anti-distributists out there usually use the talking points of Wells and George Bernard Shaw, who were overt enemies of the church, and they use their talking points against Belloc and Chesterton, and this is angering. Pink Nickel Vids, yeah, that acronym did used to mean the Bureau of Land Management. Maybe that's what I'll just call them as my code for them if I have to, is call them the Bureau of Land Management. It'll sound like I'm making a video about land trust issues. Simple Crusader, you like how I passionate get when defending the truth? Well, thank you, and I do. This is why I tell people we do need people who are more people who do this, who are willing to go to the truth no matter where it takes them. When I first started, I considered starting a channel a year before I did it, and back in those days, I was watching Ben Shapiro type content and yay classical liberalism. That lasted not very long, and then I started drifting because I could tell it wasn't the truth. And all I want out of a government is a small government that stays out of my life, that's way far away, and that I worry more about the local politics that are very deeply influenced by the faith life of the people there. That's what I want. I want a government, and want a national government that will prevent the rise of the culture we have right now. And unfortunately, you can't do that under our system. It just doesn't work. Cheap Guy says, let's defund college education. It's not working. I would love to see a much smaller college system where people who are truly talented, who need those that type of education can go, but most people don't because they don't need to. Most people don't need a college education. It's just a simple fact. I would love to see a much more robust technical school system that is actually respectable. Because if you think of a good technical school, you're thinking of an HVAC repair school or something similar. But most things you go to college for, you can get the training you need to do in 18 months. Doctor Who 1980. Yeah, one truly Catholic education system. That what that would take? That would take a restoration of the Catholic school system. you would, which, given what happened yesterday in the courts, good luck. Teresa Nelson, your husband is a knight but not active because it was never what we thought it was. Right. And, I mean, the knights in my town are pretty decent, but mostly they handle barbecues and that kind of thing. And, I mean, there's other stuff they do, but that's all, and they sell Christmas trees and things. I've never buying a real Christmas tree living in this state, by the way, just as an FYI, because real Christmas trees in this state are about 3 times what they were in Oregon. I bought a plastic one. Maud M. I didn't watch Tyler Marshall's video on that. I mean, as far as I can tell, she is a Catholic. Does she have a real influence on the president? How is her accent so thick? She's from, well, I mean, she's not an American. She's an American citizen, but she was not born here. She's she's a reverted sinner, like a lot of us are. She reverted to the faith. And people who hold her past against her, I have, her past or the president's past, I have real problems with, as long as they're not consistently doing those old sins. But is she a Catholic? As far as I can tell, she is. But I didn't watch Marshall's video on that, at least not yet, so I don't know what the argument was. Teresa Nelson, Bureau for Land Management. Yeah, they don't have a very good relationship with the tribes here. And I do have sympathy for the tribes. I mean, their history in this country is pretty bad. And, I live in, the state that has, you learn a lot about that history. And this is not a state where they're going to, put a hammer and sickle as part of their education. Cheap guy, you were right. College education is generally a privilege, not a right. Let's see. What form of government would work best with distribution? For example, monarchy, republic, democracy. I'm not a fan of the D word, and I don't believe in the R word much either, although the church has said, at least some figures in the church have said that, divided, power is probably the best. But, again, that could be a monarchy. The church has historically been a big fan of monarchy. As long as we get to I think democracy is self-destructive. I mean, Aristotle said the same thing. Aristotle said that. Plato pointed that out. All the figures in history did that. I think if you want to read a good take on this, go read. I do recommend Charles Colombe's Star Spangled Crown. It gives you the account of what would happen if in the next decade or so the American presidency is lost and there's an accidental military coup because of just circumstances around it, and then they can't get themselves out of it, and it leads to a monarchy. That's the only way they figure out. And it gives you a lot of takes on what that would look like. And I recommend that book. But for any government that would work best with a distributist or any of the other systems of thought that come out of Catholic social teaching, like the syndicalists and the corporatism and all the rest of it, it has to be a government that is bound and determined to support subsidiarity. And I don't mean federalism, I mean subsidiarity, which means local governments making most of the decisions most of the time. Sometimes there are issues too big for local governments to handle, like for instance, I don't know, national defense, or there's a region-wide tsunami that wipes out the East Coast. You're not going to get a local government that's going to be able to do much for that. That's national government can take care of that, can help with that sort of thing. Is it a sin if you 3D print a few thousand President Garden gnomes and plant them at sites they have been? That's funny. It'd be more of a sin if you did the bumper sticker thing people have been talking about. I don't know if you've heard about this, but people have been taking the bumper stickers for the president's re-election campaign and putting them on the cars of these people taking to the streets while they're away from their vehicles. It would be nice if the church could have its own task force again, but we're not there. Shane West, this is the path you went on. Being only a patriotic right-winger didn't solve your problems and questions. The search for truth led you to Catholicism, pretty much. And I mean, when I converted, wasn't even on the political right. I don't like this left-right thing. I think for a while there, the people were waking up to the fact that this wasn't a left-right thing. But you'll hear me use the term leftist because there are leftists. And these aren't like these aren't your, Tim Pool types. These aren't your mainstream Democrats who simply have a different opinion on the scope of government than the rest of us. There are people out there who wave the red flag and the black flag of anarchy and the red flag of the Soviet Union, and they do it unironically, and they want that system. Some of them want to just do it internally in the United States and make it so we wake up eventually in a country we don't recognize, which sort of has already happened now. Thomas Keller, most higher ed is BS. Most major law degree here, You have a double major in law degree, mostly learn a trade, don't go to college or school. Before I went on, I was revising my post-defense doctoral dissertation. I had gone through the hard version of it already, and which was a very in-depth, just shredding of my document from one committee member, and I had gone through and done almost everything except the first chapter, stuff in the early first part of the first chapter, because I actually intend to rewrite a lot of that anyway. And I can tell you, I've been in college a long time, and most of it is just nonsense. When you hear me say the word nonsense, it's my replacement for the BS word. LR says the Knights in your parish take care of a lot of the maintenance and fundraising for the parish and school. This organization can be redeemed regardless of the failures of the Supreme. Do your part. Yes, the Knights of Columbus, I think, are a very good entry point for good Catholic men to retake the Knights, to help retake the church and restore order. Especially, says, as my friend Triad Patrick likes to say on his show, there is no more minor orders, and they really should be. Vera, you want a church group to be able to go after the stonecutters. Speaking of that group, I have a papal encyclical Saturday. It's short. It's another one of the papal condemnations of that group, so please give it a listen and share it. People need to understand that there's an actual anathema attached to any prelate who says it's okay to join that group. So all those Australian bishops, they might have anathematized themselves. Oops. Doctor Who 1980 says, it's sad that Venerable Bishop John Newman, you mean John Henry, Cardinal Newman, was the one who started the whole education system here in the U.S. He was one of them. Jefferson was too. I wrote my master's thesis on Jefferson. His school system, though, was much saner than what we have now. It's like they basically replaced his school system. His was almost like a parish system. In fact, I'm pretty sure he modeled it after the Catholic parish system. Blue Healer says, Knights of Columbus helped the parishes a lot of good life work. Yes, they are. There's a lot of potential there, and I think to be the easiest to take back. All you have to do is get a group of your young guys to take over, and then bide your time. RN2 Law says, which by the way I had to approve your comment. Anyone who chooses to carry a rosary in lace of flowers for her wedding is Catholic. There you go. I don't know what word you said there that made me have to approve it. It might have been the name of the First Lady. That's really revealing. Saber says, as long as you have Catholic monarchs, yeah. Fun fact about the American Revolution: apparently King George was actually the most Catholic-friendly monarch that the English had in a long time, and that was one of the grievances our leaders had. Thoughts on enrolling in perpetual Mass and other enrollments offered by nuns and monks? You're thinking of enrolling in Mount Angel Abbey. They are Benedictines and will remember you at Mass and prayers. You're thinking of enrolling for a Mass, or are you thinking about becoming a monk? There's a difference. I know that I've got people. Somebody at my parish keeps enrolling my wife and I in a about monthly. We get a letter from I want to say Clear Creek Abbey or the FSSP saying we've been enrolled for a perpetual Mass to be said. I think that's a good thing. For having a Mass is said for any cause, that's a good thing. Teresa Nelson says you don't see the anti-Moloch support anywhere with the Knights of Columbus. That's because a lot of them have been succumbed to the civil religion. Democracy is supposed to be for localities, not nations. Right, a country the size of the United States would historically have been an empire, and America is an empire. Let's be real. It's just we elect our emperor. And I don't see how the larger your country is, the more making it more democratic works. If you look at what happened when we really democratized the United States, starting about 100 years ago, how everything has just spiraled out of control, punctuated by the occasional international conflict. All out of African polar bear says democracy can't work in a country like ours, we'll say. I've never received Daughters of Isabella. Oh, that's a good question. Maybe you can help start a chapter. Blue Healer, the problem with the Knights of Columbus is that we pay dues so that millions of dollars each year can go into Francis's personal charity fund and into the Vatican coffers. There's that. I'm pretty sure they are required by their charter to give money to the papacy. Colin Conity says the left-right dichotomy is stonecutter. Yes, it is. And it's actual, you know where it comes from? It comes from the French Revolution. Think about that. In Doctor Who 1980, he says the Abbey looks wonderful. I'll tell you from my own experience that that I spent a weekend at Mount Angel Abbey in Oregon, and it's beautiful up there. It's very nice. You barely get cell reception too, and you're supposed to leave your cell phone in the cell they assign you to sleep in, which is, a good idea. Trad Dad says, "When am I coming on your show again?" I don't know. When do you want me to come on? I've got time these days. Dangerous Species says all presidents are from one bloodline. I doubt the current one is. They seem to hate him enough that I kind of wonder. George Washington was also a wonderful planter who in his spare time also cut many stones. Yeah, he was. That's why I don't buy his late life conversion theory. Brendan Garvey, member of the channel, says, "I agree with defunding colleges and universities. Growing up in better times in Ireland during the 60s and 70s, the government funded technical schools and institutes that were much more appropriate." Yes. Most people don't need to go to school for that long to get really good job that helps them do their duty to their families and to society. Mr. Jackson says, "My recent video on scapulars, any thoughts on the metals?" If people want me to do a video on metals, I could. Send me some information though on some lesser known metals, not the miraculous metal or the Benedict, St. Benedict metal, but other metals. And I don't necessarily mean like saints metals. Send me an email with some of that information because, a lot of that scapular video was done from information I got from people that I was able to verify. The only thing I find weird is I went to the grotto in Portland a couple of times when I lived there, and I went into their gift shop, and they had medals for Pope Benedict XVI and Pope Francis, which is weird. Why would you have medals for living popes? That's so weird. I can understand, popes who are maybe awaiting canonization or, canonized saints, but for living figures is strange. The so-called Catholic college you went to was in name only. They had liberal speakers, including a female member of the James Martin Brigade. No religious talks or discussion. Nuns were not dressed as nuns, just street clothes. Yeah, well, I always do a double take when I see a nun in full habit. That's always nice. It's a sign, an external sign of what they have given, of the cross they carry, that they have given, everything to Christ. And it's an inspiration when you see them. And in my estimation, nuns are the most beautiful women you'll ever see. And I don't mean that in a gross way. I mean that in a sanctity, a desire for sanctity radiates through them. It's just amazing. Tom Nelson has declared that he loves his wife. Well, that's good. I would hope so. You don't like the new ugly habits either. The one that look like pantsuits? Yeah. Say BS in French. No, because the algorithm will still pick that up. Pink Nickelvids, the AIM was a Native American movement that was founded in Minneapolis, formed in urban areas to address poverty and... Interesting. Saber says he's in Australia. Brendan Garvey, a lot of people who didn't go to university, typically anything good was endured by liberals and anti-religious influence in government. The German leader was left-wing, but the narrative keepers uses his techniques but don't want people to know. Go figure. Well, what was the name of his party? It was a socialist party. He was enamored by the guy over in Italy who didn't really think highly of him to begin with. The guy in Italy should have kept that thought, the forefront of his mind, honestly, instead of, allying with him. But how such it is. Not Cardinal Newman, John Newman, Redemptorist Bishop from Bohemia. Oh, okay, yeah, I get these. I get them confused. People think the Stonecutters are all men's club, but that was 20th century. Now it's trending videos on mainstream news. Really young. Good morning to you. 1973, AIM became deeply involved and led an armed occupation of Wounded Knee. Yep. Speaking about Australia, does anyone here suspect that the massive fires and problems they've been experiencing there have something to do with near majority of them supporting? Well, we know that the fires that they had there were actually set by environmentalists, either on accident or on purpose. I don't remember which, but that narrative that they were pushing wasn't true. But it wouldn't surprise me if that was a chastisement either. Are Stonecutters as involved in the government today as they were in 1776? Do they worship Lucifer? Is that a conspiracy? I don't know about what the high-level people do. I mean, maybe John Sauls can give you better information, although there are some people who have problems with what he says. But, I mean, I think that they're a lot more subtle now than they used to be, too. But I live in a part of the country that has like a lodge of theirs everywhere. Simple Crusader, what are your thoughts on Franco and clerical fascism? Would that be a good form of government? I think you would. There's a lot of conditioning people need to do before they could ever accept that, simply because the F word has become synonymous with all the stuff that the guy with the funny mustache did in Germany in World War II. I'm not. I mean, look at what the increasingly democratizing our country has given us. Funny thing is, I take one of those "What's your political ideology?" quizzes, and I just answer it with what the church says. I keep getting the clerical F word as a response, and I'm like, "Well, that's weird." Desktop Adonis, if they smash tiny 3D printed Trump gnomes, no one gets hurt. If you put bumper stickers on cars, I'm sure property will be damaged. Right, like. Yeah, at the end of the day, if you make tiny 3D printed statues of the president, all that happens is you're out a few cents of cheap plastic. After 1980, you like Franco, but you don't know about clerical F word. I would go take a look at there's some good material out there about it. A lot of the F word ideology comes from like Catholic priests who were trying to stop the ravages of what they saw as liberalism. Do a video on metals. I mean, if people send me some information on the various more obscure metals, I'll happily do it. Please pray. Carl Kaiser is saying, please pray for him. He's being received in the lay Dominican order. Very nice. Keep us in your prayers as well. Xenia says, Knights here donated ultrasound machines to a lukewarm family planning groups. Great. Roseanne Rossi says that you read that metals are worn in hot climates because they're sweating with cloth scapulars. I would imagine those metals would get warm too, though. Ms. Jackson, scapular metals, are they good or proof versus wool? I've seen some scapulars that have metal on them. I don't recommend Medjugorje anything, though. I'm not a fan. Maud M says, should Catholics have tattoos that reflect their faith and not alter their body at all? I don't think the church has formally condemned tattoos, but I could be wrong at that. They're not for me. That's all I know. I don't have a tattoo. I wouldn't recommend them, although, then again, I've got some good, faithful Catholics I know who have Catholic tattoos, so I don't know. I don't judge them for what they've done. It's just not something I would personally do. Lord Afrikaners. Scapulars are supposed to be made of wool, says Anna Colleen. I have seen some scapulars that have metals inside the tab on them, so that could be good. Any thoughts on geocentrism? I leave all that to Robert Sungenis. He seems to be good on that topic. I don't know. I don't really concern myself with that too much. It doesn't seem to be something I'm all that worried about. Man, I lost my spot here. We need to begin a rosary crusade against the errors of Russia. The rosary remains one of our most powerful weapons. Yes, and I need to go check in with Father Heilman's outfit to see if they've got another one scheduled soon. Because I remember last year I, used my channel that was half the size it is now to get people to participate, so I should do that again. You think the algorithm, where's the world going to? Do I algorithm? Well, no, it's not that they so much algorithmed it, Verum. It's that YouTube serves the world. And one of the things I have to click on when approving my video, getting my video approved, is it doesn't have profanity in it. If it has profanity in it, it changes the way it's sent out. Anna Colleen says that cotton, silk, and any other material is strictly forbidden. This is of the Brown Scapular site and answer as to what they may be made from. There you go. Dr. He says, there's a very sad lodge in your city. It's a pretty place. It looks like a church, too. It's very sad, though also kind of strange, but sort of makes sense that it's just outside City Hall. There's some symbology right there. Yeah, no, I have a lodge about 2 blocks from my house. I have to drive past it to get to the nearest gas station. Place is weird looking. It looks like almost like a bunker. Like the only windows are on the front door. And if you look in, it may be tinted, but you can see that there's another door to make sure you can't see what's going on inside. Roseanne Ross, you don't like the forcing of masks and masks. You have to go to a nose ordo. You'll wear a shawl on your head and wrap around your face. But the traditional parish I go to, the FSSP parish I go to, the only person who ever wears a mask is anybody who comes in who wants to do so voluntarily, and that's their business. And the priest, when he is about to give communion, he then puts one on just before he gives communion. Put Pro T bumper stickers on Pro stickers. Brendan Garvey, the problem is with your suggestion there is I can't even pronounce that. Like, I remember, I famously can't pronounce, like, anytime there's Latin. Like, when I read the recent, what was, I think, the second Vegan letter, I skipped a lot of the Latin because I was going to just mangle it. Saber says the fires in Australia were not attributed to what they said it was, all lit by people and amplified by the government relabeling state crown land to national parks, thereby illuminating need to burn periodically. There you go. Tattoos versus the resurrection of the body. Well, thank you, Susie family. I appreciate the kind thoughts. Google, you bought a purple scapular kit and you're wondering what it consists of and what you have to do to put it together. It was the only way to get one. Everywhere was sold out. I'm thinking it requires sewing. It will require sewing. What I would do is I would just go find pictures of the purple scapular online and construct it to look like that. Anna Colleen endorses the Rosary Crusade. Thomas Keller thinks that tattoos are a waste of money at best. Yeah, that's sort of my attitude these days about things like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, some people think it's evil. I'm like, yeah, it's just a waste of time. I know, because younger life played a lot of that stuff. Adamant Center is doing a crusade for the consecration of Russia. Yeah, Hertina Vox meant a 54-day novena. Yeah, and that's what I thought you meant, and that's why I suggested Father Heilman's outfit, because his U.S. Grace Force usually promotes those things. How do music videos get away with all the foul language? I don't know why YouTube lets that, but I think YouTube Music is a practically different outfit altogether. Robert actually graduated from the State University where I'm getting my doctorate from. Huh. We're supposed to adorn our bodies, tattoos, pierced ears. I used to see a man at daily mass full of tattoos. God is judging, he has great mercy. Right. I mean, we don't know the story about all that for that person either. We don't know, if he had them before he converted or whatnot. And I leave all that stuff up to God and his confessor. Do I believe we're living in the end times? Depends what you mean by the end times. I firmly believe that we are living in the run-up to Fatima. Firmly. And I think, those of us who make it to the end of the decade may end up seeing it. LifeSite News is doing an Our Lady of Fatima Rosary Crusade for the next 12 months. It's very good. Please join. Wow, and I had to approve that comment, Christine. I'm wondering if LifeSite News is now flagged. That's good. Digital Magic, don't need to apologize. Glad you joined us. And hello to you. You're in Hong Kong. Please stay safe. Please keep your head down. Varum is in Canada, apparently. Know that there have been living in the end times since Jesus' resurrection. That's one thing the church kind of has said is, although I do like the 6 ages of the church theory, that we're in late 5th stage, and the 5th stage started with the Protestant revolt. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy. This is also, Doctor Who 1980. Okay. Rupert did a talk on modesty and piercing tattoos came up. They go against modesty. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. U.S. Grace, Roseanne and Rossi likes the U.S. Grace Force. I do too. Alexis Arizon, well, you're in Salem. I'd been to Salem a few times back in my, early college days when I was, in student leadership and all that stuff, talking to the lawmakers about things I would never be involved with now. Roseanne Rossi, you bought U.S. Grace Force Warrior kits for your grandkids. I didn't know they had those. I'll have to look into that. Let's see. Divine Mercy Shrine has rosary each day at 5, chaplet at 3. And Austin Duffy, it looks like you had a kid, a cat, or you fell asleep on your keyboard. I had to approve that. Do I think we can trust Michelle Rodriguez? From what I've heard, there are things he's saying that don't line up with the dogmas of the faith. That's all I'll say. I try not to say too much about anybody else who's in the commentary business, especially if they're a priest. But, sometimes you just got to call it like you see it, All right, let's go see what's going on in the world today. Let's see what's trending on Twitter. NYPD says there is no criminality by Shake Shack employees after 3 police officers fall ill. This is where we're This is how things spiral out of control. There's a hashtag trending that I can't say the name of. By the way, there's a people out there trying to rebrand the concept of white privilege to white blessing. Both are extremely cringe. Don't use either. Just don't do it. It's just a bad take. I don't recommend it. So let's go check into our favorite heterodox Catholic news site, novenanews.com. The Pope is the Pope. Italian cardinal denounces increasingly harsh and insolent attacks on Francis. Well, here's a cool story. It's from Spain. Slaves of Satan. Spanish Catholic University president accuses our billionaire tech CEO and philanthropist and George S. of wanting to control the world through a affliction chip. You can tell that I had to clean up that headline a lot. Quote, in every generation, the Antichrist appears. Whew, I like this guy. President of the Catholic University of Murcia, UCAM, in Spain's southeast, Jose Luis Mendoza gave voice to an alternative hypothesis of secretive plans, as I call them on this channel, with a hot link. And I'm going to go to that hot link. This might be worth a video for me later. Oh, this is in Spanish, too. Yeah, this is very cool. I'm so glad people are waking up to everything going on. I'm glad there are people who like my coded speech. I have to. Like, the C theories are definitely flagged. Our Lady of the Middle Kingdom, is she venerated there by the patriotic quote-unquote church? I don't know. I've also never heard of Our Lady of the Middle Kingdom before, but if it's Our Lady of the country's proper name, I think I may have heard of that. Can I do a video on the history of the Divine Mercy, Image, and Devotion controversy? I have been strong opinions for and against. I see something that just presents a history. I could consider doing that on like one of my second Saturday videos. It's that people, you're going to see a lot of people in the comments, taking sides, and I don't like the doing things that necessarily will get people like at each other's throats in my comments. It's one of the things I try to police the comments for. You think a billionaire Hungarian American is like an antichrist? Yeah, that guy has been banned in a lot of countries. I'll just say that. Do they even filter what I buy on Amazon? Well, no, they just make it so you can't buy certain things on Amazon. Like, I mean, good luck streaming that classic 1939 movie that got banned recently. I had to go hunt around to find a copy. Roseanne likes my use of the word Skittles. Yeah, taste the rainbow. Digital Magic, here they started to filter things. I forget what country you said you're in, but you're in Hong Kong. Well, yeah, I mean that's the glorious government of yours and its super happy freedom-loving tendencies, and our tech rulers happily going along with it. As do they have the social credit system there, Digital? I'm curious if they have that in Hong Kong, or if they've not unrolled it yet, made it public yet. You've been allowed 25 people at St. Joseph's Church in Salem to keep a list of who comes to Mass, but the last 2 Saturdays there were thousands gathered only blocks away. Shout. Yeah, there's a lot of hypocrisy. And Alexis, I got to say, Oregon is the reason I do not believe in the voting reforms that they're pushing to be able to do it from home. I don't support it because have you noticed that in Oregon, after they did that, you didn't have a member of the Conservative Party win an election of any meaningful purpose. They couldn't do it statewide. There's a reason for that. Digital Magic, many Catholic sites are now blocked here. And I'm guessing getting a VPN is probably not legal in your country. Thomas Keller note how the Hungarian guy sounds and gives you chills. Maybe I'll just call him the Hungarian guy. A lot of people, if I do that, you'll have to go in the comments and tell people what that means. I love the use of the affliction. Well, that is the only word I could come up with that to as code for the thing going on. And I think it's true though. I mean, look, if you go back to the dates that people in the lab started abandoning ship over where it came from, I think the word it fits. What do I think of Gregory the Seventh of the Palmarian Church? I don't know anything about Gregory the Seventh of the Palmarian Church. That noir lives. That noir lives are worth destroying our society. Palmarian Church has valid orders, but they are heretical cults. So is the what is it? The old Catholics. As long as they're not having a woman bishop or a woman priest, that their orders are valid. But Roseanne Rossi, they sort of stole it. Theirs has got not the right number of colored bands. Although I think they recently added them to be more inclusive of the big issue going on right now, and that changed it. Father Malachi Martin, although a few years off, he appears to be spot on at least what he gave us. Yeah, this is why I keep going back to him. The video I mentioned earlier, if you're joining us, Kevin, is I have a video that'll go live probably Thursday unless it's preempted by major news. I mentioned his book Vatican. If you really want to see how we got to a lot of the corruption in the church right now, read Vatican. You can get a copy on Amazon in paperback for relatively cheap. Read that book. It gives you from World War II all through the 1980s, all of the corruption coming out of the Vatican. It's really good, and it's not sensationalized. You can't accuse it of that like you can that some people have with Windswept House. And if you like Windswept House, it's practically required reading to really understand Windswept House. It practically picks up where it left off. You understand the obedience to the local bishop is expected, but is this current situation a basis for justified holy rebellious acts? Well, it depends. Like if your bishop gives you orders to do something just, or at least that does not conflict with the faith, generally you kind of have to obey. But he can't tell you, to vote for a Moloch worshiper in the fall. Their first pope after the St. Paul VI. Do I think the president is genuinely religious? I don't, but I think he's still better than the other guy. He's not public about it. Other than that, I don't know. I generally try to take someone at face value when they say that they've amended their life and try to live more in accordance with Christian values. If I try to take someone who says that they're a Christian at least at the most basic level, even if they have a very disordered view of what that means. But everybody should be praying for his conversion. Offer your rosary for his conversion. He has a Catholic woman, that he's married to, that would be a great instrument for that. Roseanne Rossi, you are now reading Windswept House. Windswept House is one of the few books that I had to put down. When I read that opening chapter, I had to put it down because that scene was so disturbing. Just so disturbing. Yeah. Let's see. I want to see how this is going. According to my dashboard. Oh, lost a subscriber, but I'm still above 50,000, so that's good. It's honestly a subscriber count that I never thought I'd get to. The president does need your prayers. The previous president needed our prayers. I mean, let's be real. Whether or not you like the person does not mean they don't need that. Apparently, Voris apologized for calling Wilton Gregory what he called him. Hilarious. He should have known that wasn't going to fly. Recently found your vinyl, says you love the videos. Your diocese cathedral just reopened only for private prayer, so you're heading down in a couple of hours. Greetings from England. Greetings, Steve. Thank you, and thanks for subscribing. I appreciate it. All the sites for a scapular are blocked now in Hong Kong. Try to get one. Oh, that's unfortunate. If anybody knows where to get one, a website to get one that isn't blocked in Hong Kong, put it in the chat. I'll approve it. You think they should shut off cell service to that area or whatever it's called now? Let's call it the zone. One name I've liked is the Soviet Union. Let's see. You picked it back up, put it back down, kind of like watching the USCCB. It's a difficult book to read. The Vatican is easier, and Malachi Martin goes into what happened to John Paul I, his own take on it. Is Tradcat Knight, Tradcath Patrick you guys are talking about? Nope, two different people. I'm fine with both of them. I can't take credit for Soviet Union. I saw that in my Facebook feed. I thought it was perfect. What do you think of the fivefold scapular? Could you do a video about cords? Yes, send me an email. My email's listed in the description of videos. I've got like 140 emails in my inbox now. I just can't catch up. But give me some links with it. Sometimes history is told as fictionalized or it wouldn't be published when Swept House may likely fall into that category. Well, he called it faction. And he said that 95% of it was true. He just changed names and a couple of minor details. Like his main characters are usually himself, I've noticed. There's only one book of his that I've read that I just put down and never picked back up, and that was The Final Conclave. I just didn't like it. It was so weird. The Tri-Cath monarchist, the president should negotiate a trade deal with an immigration policy with Antifa. Soy Malia. There's also Wokadishu, is what people are calling it now. Zen Rossi, okay, that's helpful. You'll get read it. Good. St. Joseph cords are great. There's a sermon on Sensus Fidelium about St. Joseph. There's a lot of sermons on Sensus Fidelium about St. Joseph. Thomas Keller likes Tried Patrick more than Tried Cat Knight. That's, Could I do a video on St. Joseph's cord? Again, send me an email with some sources, and I'll happily do one. It's just a starting point. And Colleen, which scapular did I mention? Well, in my video, I mentioned the 8 most popular scapulars. You can watch it. Susie family, I do not comment on people associated with generally other Catholic organizations unless they're personal friends of mine. I've never met Michael Voris. You heard Vatican Catholic was bashing Tolkien, calling him pagan. Do you agree with this? I don't agree with anything that comes out of Vatican Catholic's channel. I do not recommend anybody watch that channel. That is those guys. My rule about not commenting on other people, I suspend that for that outfit. What do I think about the illumination of conscience? Well, Marie-Julie Jeheny said something about that. She didn't call it the illumination of conscience, called it the sign, and said that we would all know where we stand with God, and it's the same thing. And I do trust Marie-Julie Jeheny. Oh, I mentioned scapulars in another country. Oh, he was trying to get a purple scapular, but all the websites to buy scapulars are blocked in this country now. Susie family, if you email me, I might be willing to say more, but I don't. But not on my channel, though. Thomas, no, Lord Jesus Christ. So it says I had to approve your Tolkien was Catholic comment. That is so weird. I don't get it. What do I think of Ascent of Mount Carmel? I like Ascent of Mount Carmel. I'm subscribed, and I watch their videos, and I actually 100% endorse their New American Bible series. Check that series out if you ever want to know why you should pick up a traditional translation of the Bible. He started that series, and he does short-form videos like I do, except his are even shorter, typically 5 to 6 minutes long. And he thought he was going to do 1 or 2 videos in the New American Bible, and last I saw, he had 12. So go check that out. Pope's agenda to drive an educational global agenda is coming. They were supposed to be in Rome this spring to launch it, likely in cahoots. Right, I've done videos on that, Pink Nickel, and I'll definitely be doing another one in the future as we get closer to it. They rescheduled to October, right around the Fatima's Miracle of the Sun anniversary, which is just fantastic. Anna Colleen says to email her, and she'll send you a purple scapular. All right, Digital, if you hear that, send me an email, and Anna Colleen, send me an email, and I will try to connect you two, okay? Hertina Vox, do I know for sure if the Salvadoran Archbishop Oscar Romero canonized 2018 was liberation theology supporter? I don't. A lot of people said a lot of things about him, and it could be that as time went on, he got more and more sort of radicalized. I know that he died in a way that typically saints do die. He died in the middle of saying the Mass. He was elevating the Eucharist right when they took him out. So he's one of those figures that I have a general rule about canonizations. Generally speaking, that people should be gone for a century before they do it. Let the fanaticism around the individual die down. It's why I wasn't too sad when the Chesterton one sort of stalled. It wasn't the Fulton Sheen one stalled, and I also don't want anybody getting canonized under things right now. You're going to try to find the light today. You need to shut this darkness all around us. Yeah, no. Spend some time outdoors today. Maybe go to your parish and be in front of the sacrament. But Nova Sword to watch. They're a set of a Contis outfit. If you, But I follow them on Twitter, and I do occasionally check into their website. Yeah, so Digital Magic, very good. I was hoping you'd see that. So yes, email me, and then Anna Colleen, send me an email. And you saw that. Very good, very good, very good. Ryan Garcia says he likes Ascent of Mount Carmel, but has doubts but he has doubts about Cardinal Newman because he thinks Newman is sketchy. I've heard that Newman, some people characterize Cardinal Newman as a proto-modernist. I don't know if Ascent of Mount Carmel ever did a video on that argument about that. I'd like to see it if he did, though. Susie family says that he thinks that the president is demonstrating tremendous restraint. They want him to employ the military so they can prove they're baiting him. Not only to prove that, but it's very well thought out. There's an argument that the action to do that would actually be unconstitutional. And guess what happens then? So I just got to say, though, that this is also causing a lot of his supporters to get very lukewarm. And I think that's part of it too. Purple Scapular, you didn't catch the name. I'm not sure what you mean, Alexis Arizon. Yes, Susie family. I understand who you're talking about. It's just that the use of I suspect his name is also flagged. Stephanie F. Sedevacantists are probably the most hated of the hated traditional Catholics. You folks have it rough. Yes, for the Sedevacantists in the audience, I don't have anything against Sedevacantists. I just disagree. As long as you don't necessarily recruit in my comments and my videos, I don't care. Vatican Catholic, a Sedevacantist, when zeal goes too far, it becomes heresy. Yeah, they rub me the wrong way. But, I like Father Jenkins. He's a Sedevacantist, and I just disagree. But I like him. All right. Do I agree the Vatican II tried to remove Latinizations of the Eastern Catholic churches? Vatican II... Excuse me, that was gross, but... So I have a friend of mine who says, who whenever Vatican II comes up and people start knocking it too hard, he says they did do one good thing, and that they did have a document that told the Eastern Rites that they needed to preserve the cultures of their liturgy, that they needed to preserve their liturgy, and that is 100% true. If you've ever been to a Maronite Mass, or Divine Liturgy as I call it, it is the most Novus Ordo of the Eastern Rites you will ever see. It was very shocking when I went to one. But I've been to a Byzantine Ukrainian Divine Liturgy, and it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen. At that time, I'd never been to a traditional Latin Mass, so it was breathtaking what I saw. And I'd like us to bring rood screens back. They still had a rood screen there. And the way they give, where the Eastern Rites give communion with the giant spoon thing, the priest has a spear at the altar. I mean, it's very cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of deep theology behind it being more than just cool. So, but I do think the Eastern Rites need to preserve their culture. Absolutely. I think the stalling of Sheen is due to people who would follow him and then learn the truth, especially about the communism. Yeah, well, it's also that. It's that, but at the most basic level, Cardinal Spellman and he were not good. Were not on good terms, and Spellman's legacy lives on in the current crop of bishops. Let's see. Latin Mass, or at least watching online transmission, has helped you a lot in learning Latin. This is a nice channel. Ite missa est. Well, thank you. Roseanne Rossi, you aren't lukewarm. Very good. Vatican II did try to reach out to the East. Yeah, I think bringing the Eastern Rites into the fold more is not a bad thing in the slightest. Where can one be obtained? There are websites. You have to get on a wait list, and it takes a few weeks because there's a huge amount of demand for them right now, and they are being handmade. Please pray for all out of African polar bear says, please pray for your nephew that is at university in Hong Kong. Keep him in your prayers that he stays safe and holds on to his faith. It is not a very good place to be, I would guess. Do you disagree with him on the Thuk bishops, though? That's right. If I remember correctly, LJC, you're from you're part of a Sedevacantist group that is from the Thuk line, if I remember correctly. Kevin Leclerc, you want a purple scapular? Also, where do I send my email for you? That's not. I don't have them to give away. I went to sacramentals.org and I just signed up there, and I eventually was able to get one that I paid for. They when there's one available for you, they send you a PayPal link to pay. Praying for your nephew, all out of Africa. Okay. If the captain of the ship is bad does not mean you should jump overboard. This is true. Like Father Jenkins too, says Passy, he's very solid traditional faith. What Catholics believe is a great program he's doing from Ohio. I just haven't watched it in a while. I actually took a break for a while from a lot of Catholic content just because I didn't want to sound like everybody else. Tom Scholar, Maronites are disappointing. Well, the best man at my wedding was a Maronite. He's one of the most faithful Catholics I've ever met. So not all of them. Do I like the Anglican Ordinariate, says Ryan. I've never been to an Anglican Ordinariate Mass. I'd like to, though. What do I think about the Sister Lucia controversy? I don't find it implausible. I do want to go see that. I want to watch and review for this channel the documentary when it comes out in a couple of months. Wow, that's only a couple of months away. My comment section on the video I did about that was very, very fun. A lot of people were just shocked I did a video on that. But I'm open to most hypotheses at this point about the state of the church. The West has a difficult relationship with the East at times, recently especially rough in America. Think Bishop John Ireland. Well, let me give you an example again from the Maronites. When they put their first parish in Portland, Oregon, the local bishop there at the time didn't even know they were Catholic. So, let's see, LJC wants to know if he could post a link to the Ukrainian Divine Liturgy. It's nice, and nice commentary explaining the symbolism. Yeah, put it in the chat. If it goes through, I will click a link to. I'll approve, especially with like a YouTube link. It should get through. Roseanne Rossi says, and I lost my space again. Let's see. No big C for you. You're Anglican, Anglo-humanist. Okay. Archbishop Sample is in favor of the Latin Mass. You know, that's funny, Alexis, though. One thing, because I'm from Portland, it's hard to find a Latin Mass in the Portland area. You ever notice that? Yes, the Dominicans have the Dominican Rite traditional Latin Mass, and that is beautiful. It's absolutely stunning to watch. And occasionally, Archbishop Sample will do one publicly. And there's St. Stephen's in southeast Portland, which is where I was married, and it was they offer the low Mass there, but it's hard to find a traditional Latin Mass in the city. It's very strange because Archbishop Sample is a champion of the Mass. He taught himself the Latin Mass by watching old footage he found on reel-to-reel in his cathedral attic. Do you agree that there should be restoration of rood screens in Latin Rite churches? Generally, I think the more we re-embrace and restore our traditions, the better. It's bad Catholic bishops that led to the creation of Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia. That doesn't surprise me. I mean, the Bella Dodd's work speaks for itself. Portland, Maine. You're in Portland, Maine. Susie family. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and the person talking about Archbishop Sample is in the Portland area as well. Do you agree should go back to 1945 missal rather than 1962 missal? I have not seen a 1945 missal, but I do think that we should have a pre-1955 things more widespread. Which, by the way, how many of you know that Pope Francis authorized the observance of the octave of Corpus Christi? How many of you know that? That was done away with in the 1955 missal. Pope Francis authorized that. That's so mind-boggling. But, and I totally approve of that. St. Joseph's Church in Salem, Oregon. Yes, he did. So there is a St. Joseph's Church in Salem, Oregon is offering the Latin Mass now. Very nice. I'm curious to know if I have children. I do. I have one. We want more. How do we explain some of these things which might come to pass sooner rather than later? I don't want to scare your child to death. Well, my child is 20 months old, so I don't have to explain anything to him just yet. We're in the he doesn't listen to us even when he calls our name. We call his name. Donna Ballou says that the Leaflet Missile store had some yesterday, so maybe check their website. Anna Colleen says she sent the email. Thanks for helping. Good. I will check. I will keep an eye on that, and I'll pass your email on to Digital. Just make sure everybody who sends me an email, that Anna Colleen and Digital, that you identify who you are, and give me some sort of way of making note, because I know that I'm going to get other people who are going to do that. Ryan Garcia, do I like Star Wars? I used to. Disney killed it for me. It was a nice escape, and then they killed it for me. And yes, I know that the theology in Star Wars is troubling, but I used to like that stuff, and Disney wrecked that for me. Many people pray daily for the Pope. Could be he's changing. I'll remind people that that there's part of the Marie Julie Jeheni prophecies that I covered in a video where she says there's a synod or council where the Pope goes to it after he's had a very radical conversion and demands that the bishops there teach the traditional faith, and they basically tell him to, they tell them off. And that's just before things get really bad. Let's see, people are talking about tribal issues in the chat, which I think very cool. Latin Mass was offered at 6:45 a.m. and it was full of young people and big families. Beautiful. That's awesome. And it was full in the Archdiocese of Portland. How many people are permitted in Mass in the Archdiocese of Portland right now? I'm curious. Ryan says I should get a prayer rope imitating the Desert Fathers. I have somewhere I have a rosary done as a prayer rope. I just need to find it. I've moved like 5 times since I got that thing, but I have it still. I wouldn't let it go because it was a gift for when I entered the church. I have one. I just don't know where it is. Leaflet website is the Purple Scapular. That's where you got yours. Okay. A lot of people are saying go to the Leaflet Missal website. Do I think it is better to go to an FSSP parish or a narrow parish that offers the Latin Mass? I have been going to the NO parish to give more support, more presence for the TLM. I started out going to a diocesan Latin Mass, but I eventually had to start going to the fraternity in the same city because the diocesan one, we would occasionally get very, very modernist homilies from the parish priest. When we would, usually there's about a 25% chance that when the Latino priest who would say the Latin Mass, he didn't speak almost any English at all. So when it came time for the homily, the diocesan Novus Ordo priest would show up. It was his parish, and he would give the homily, and all of a sudden it was night and day. It was so jarring. And eventually that got my wife and I went to the fraternity parish in town and haven't had a problem. However, there's context for that. So you really got to take a look at your situation and see if you're getting, if the priest there isn't just doing the traditional Latin Mass for aesthetics purposes. Traditional housewife. Gotcha, Anna Clean. I'll try to when I'm done here, I'll take a look. Praying for siblings for your baby. Very good. I appreciate it. Your son is a stay-at-home dad with 6 boys. Oldest is 8 years old. Nice. I live not a long drive from the National Shrine of the Infant Jesus of Prague, located in Prague, Oklahoma. Spelled the same way, but you know how it goes. And when my wife got pregnant with our child, just before that, she went to the shrine and prayed for help. So maybe we should take a trip. 25 still waiting for phase 2, then 250. Wow, that's a jump. Prayer ropes are great. Let's see. Could I do a face reveal? Eventually. I don't hide who I am. I mean, you go look in the description of my videos, there's a P.O. box there to contact me, which has my proper spelling of my name. You could easily just copy and paste my name spelling from there, pop it into Facebook, and you'll probably find me. As far as I know, there's only one Anthony Stine located in Oklahoma. Several subscribers and patrons of the channel have found me and added me on Facebook, and as long as I can tell that your Facebook is run by someone who's Catholic, I add people. I'm not big on the show my face thing because I don't want my channel to be about me. Like sometimes I see in the comments of other Catholic commentators' channels that there's almost like a cult around them, and that creeps me out. I don't want that to be what happens to me. Octave of Corpus Christi, nice way to throw some people off. Here's really, well, you know what though? Anything that we get that is that's a restoration of tradition, I'll take. We just got here. Are we still streaming for a bit? Elbias, yes, for a little bit. Yes, for a few more minutes. I'm gonna, eventually want to have lunch with my family before I go and really dive into my revisions on this round of revisions for my dissertation, because I have a deadline and I'd like to get it in on time, because I suspect I'll get it to my committee and they'll be like, this looks mostly great here, fix this, this, and this. So it isn't what you know says he found it was really zealous about praying at the beginning of the thing, but it got tougher and tougher to concentrate as time went on. Anybody else? Yeah, my experience with watching Mass online was like that. It became harder and harder and harder. It felt like I was watching television, and that's when I actually finally stopped the week before they reopened parishes. I just couldn't do it anymore. There are other ways to keep the Sabbath holy, and enough public religious online that I trust are, we're saying that's not, you don't fulfill your Sunday obligation watching Mass on television anyway. Jeffrey Mordog, I will approve what you put in there, but that's your personal email address is not something I recommend ever putting into your into the comments. Clayton Lee, member of the channel, says, where did you go? Oh, your masses are starting in today, but no communion on the tongue. Our priest is going to allow it anyways. Good on your priest. Pray for him and hope that no one reports him. All out of African polar bear says the TLM is as rare as an African polar bear in this part of the world. Yeah, unfortunate. That's why I don't tell people not, which mass they can and should or shouldn't go to. It's way above my pay grade, and there are plenty of people who don't have the ability to get to one, and I understand that. Let's see. Seems the infant loves you then. Well, I my wife wants us to get a statue of the infant Jesus of Prague, and I really need to look into that. Is it true that the old way of preaching to pagan lands is that the priests should focus on the good things and Christianize pagan traditions? I don't know if that's actually true or not. Discipline is very important for kids and makes them feel loved. Those 6 grandkids are very disciplined and very happy, always smiling. The twins are a handful. Well, again, my kid is 20 months old, so I don't think he understands too much about discipline. If I tell him no, he starts crying. He understands no. Look at the NO Mass in St. Mary's in Sugar Land, Texas, very reverent and almost solemn. There are Novus Ordo Masses said in Latin, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. I've been to one. Been to a couple. Colon Conity, you go to a Novus Ordo parish, priest speaks very little English, not going to lie, it's refreshing, hard to do modernist homily if you don't speak the language well. Yeah, if you're in the United States, you're going to start noticing more and more priests from other countries coming here and treating us as what do you call it, mission territory. The diocesan priest, our parish near my house, has got a priest from India as the associate pastor. You like Father Goring, Susie? Have I seen his videos? I've seen some. Anna Clean says, Shrine of the Infant of Prague is the name of your parish, but it's in Richmond Diocese in Virginia. Huh. I wonder if that's a regional shrine. Ours says it's a national shrine. There are signs on the highway, almost 100 miles from the thing telling you to get there. Digitalmatics sent the email. Very good. Anglo-Humanist, do you understand keeping some anonymity? This is your sock puppet account because you're a public school teacher. I totally understand. I will never give people garbage about being anonymous, and I would hope the recent catastrophe with Tim Gordon will tell people that we should be more tolerant of anonymity in this age of intolerance and bigotry that we live in. Let's see. You were given a statue of the Infant of Prague, and you took care of an old black World War II vet who used to pray daily to the Infant of Prague. You adopted his prayers after he died. Good. It was soon followed by him being elected. We're all foreign priests up here. Yeah, Miss Jackson, that's unfortunate. There's something to be said about having priests from your own area there, LJC finds it hard to do modernist homilies. He doesn't know the language. Funny. Do I know any good history books that is objectively correct and doesn't have any anti-Catholic sentiments and tones? Depends on what you mean. Like, I would suggest there's one on my bookshelf that I have that I really need to dive into. It's Puritan's Empire. If you want to know about American history from a Catholic perspective, that's one, written by Charles Coulomb. It's highly recommended. He has been bamboozled already. Very cute, but your mom warned me and she was right. Let's take a look to see how I'm hoping you all watched today's video on Kenya. That is essentially my latest installment of the Chips series. If you want a church history book, also LJC is asking if you want a church history book. Another one I recommend is Vicars of Christ by Charles Coulomb. Big fan of Charles Coulomb. I can't think of another pro-Catholic historian. I'm sure there are others. Of course, Hilaire Belloc, duh. Hello, look at my avatar there. Hilaire Belloc was a historian. Let's see, you believe missionary territory back around Baltimore, like in the early 19th century, before too long. This is probably true. This is probably true. Like, America is quickly turning that way. Priests in California bring nurses in to promote inoculations. What can you do? Talk to your priest. Talk to other parishioners, give them a different perspective if that's something you're passionate about. And Colleen, just beginning with my family. Yes, I am. It's only able to have 3. You do have 10 grandchildren, and we'll have your first great-grandchild in a week. Good. Everybody pray for Anne Colleen's great-grandchild that's coming shortly. My wife and I have only been married 3 years, and there have just been some complications for, a second kid so far, but, we're not going to give up. Shane West reminds people that E. Michael Jones is also a historian. He is. A lot of people don't like him because he has no filter. Kimberly Young, okay, very good. I'm glad you liked that video. DJ, you started to watch it and then you saw that I was live. Okay, yeah. That is my next chapter of my the Chip series. I just, had trouble with that video getting it approved, so. Christopher Dawson is a recommended historian as well. William Thomas Walsh. Ken, my thoughts on Columbus. I've seen your recent tweets on the topic of his statue and such. You think he was a good man? From everything I've read about him, he was a third order Franciscan who prayed daily, and one of the first things he did when they landed was get on his knees and pray on Thanksgiving. What we know, the popular narrative about him, it comes from books written literally by his enemies. So yeah, I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot of faith in the narrative about him. Pius wants to know how old I am. I'm 40. Cole Bay Homeschool sells a great history book. I'm going to try to remember Cole Bay Homeschool because my kid is getting old enough that we're going to have to start looking into that soon. Ryan Garcia, you're a student on how to defend Genesis from your science teachers and atheist classmates. You got to bear witness to things. You can just point out the flaws in the evolutionary theory. The other option that some people take, and I do think it's also valid if that's the best you can do, is to take the Ben Shapiro approach. Tell them what they want to hear on the tests, but otherwise, you stand up for what you believe in when you're puppet seated. Is Chester? I don't know if Chesterton's considered a historian, although he did write some histories. He did biographies on Aquinas and St. Francis of Assisi, both of which are considered some of the best on that topic. Catholic schools use the wrong books. Well, yes, they do generally. Columbus was awesome. Father Wolf on iconoclasm is good. I want to do a video on the new iconoclasm. I'm torn about doing one on that or something else that those who are now making their plan for, they're inflicting their global plan on us are doing. It's something I'm looking at doing for later in the week. Kimberly Young, thank you for the sticker super chat. It is appreciated. How can I prove that the claim that the stories regarding Columbus were his enemies? Is this an established fact? Where can I see? Would like to have this info for the future. I read it from a reputable source some years ago. That's all I remember. You'll have to go look for it. But I remember reading that and not being surprised. I mean, the thing about his faith life is one of those things that just quietly got swept aside. Go look at go check out the stuff that his son is saying, right? Or not his son, but his his descendant. Christopher Columbus the 20th is out there right now, very angry, in a very peaceful kind of way, but he's very angry. Miss Jackson came into the church when your first intro was Thomas Woods. Yeah, I don't agree with his economics in the slightest. His political theory and economics I don't agree with in the slightest, but he's a guy who has had many conversations with like Stefan Molyneux and got him to soften his tone about Christians, so that's by itself good work because Molyneux's got a giant platform. Anna Klein says, your daughter decided to have her first child when she was 14. That's a little young. DJ says, read Isabel, can't remember the author's name. You'll get some idea of what Columbus was like. Okay. Do I like the Life of St. Francis by St. Bonaventure? That's one I haven't read yet. I might have that. I went through, he's my patron saint, and I went through and did a lot of reading on St. Francis, but then, university got in the way. Kathleen Vernal Sinwell, thank you very much for the kind words. Columbus is a Marxist tear down great man, victim lately in order to rewrite history. No, this is true. There's a good video about him going around, so you can't remember who they were, but they said there's a 3-volume book on Columbus. There generally is, yeah. He's probably very well documented. TFP Student X is a very good group. They fight Moloch, worship impurity, and they like Columbus. Well, okay. We have an endorsement there. Pink Niddle says, thanks for doing live video chats. No problem. I don't want what I do to be about me. If weirdly enough, that includes, not having a lot of distance between myself and other people. It's why if people find me on Facebook, until I max out on friends I can have there, I'll add people. Just don't harass me too much there. That's all I ask. Anglo-humanists, are you guys aware of Blessed Elena Guerra and Pope Leo XIII, how their prayers to the Holy Spirit were answered? See Pope Leo XIII, January 1st, 1901. Email me some stuff on that. I would do a video on that in a heartbeat, though. Just email me about that, Anglo, and give me a couple of good sources, and I'll take a look. I don't have, I know you're an Anglican. I'm guessing you're a high church Anglican, probably, from what you're saying. I don't hold that against anybody. Given how things are going, I'd be curious what you think about the state of the Anglican Church and what its future is. Hello from Maine. Kimberly Tancreed says, you were born on Columbus Day. Oh, there you go. Brown O'Connor's put us on while on break. Very good. Pink Nickel Vids, it gives a hug to my family. Every time you drive by PSU, you think of me. So my department is the Hatfield School of Government, named ironically, given the state of that school, named ironically after the last good Republican senator from the state. And I say good relative, I mean, he was still pretty liberal, but that's my department there. You used a Protestant Bible and you were at a Catholic school. Oh boy. Christopher Columbus the 22nd. How cool, noted. Now, it should be the 20th, but there might be, he probably has kids or grandkids at this point. Let's see. The Knights of Columbus defended Columbus from the Klan in the 20s, and they will do so to the Liberals in the 2020s. What's even better is that the attacks are essentially the same points. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one who's noticed that the talking points you see being used today are the same being used by that group, honestly, that weren't that different than them from 100 years earlier. Let's see, your first grandchild was born when you were 43, but that daughter who was born when she was 15 is now 20 and is making my daughter a grandmother. Just turned 35, wow. Chris Proser, no, I am not a sedevacantist. Columbus was imperfect, but he wasn't a tyrant. His brother, on the other hand, was incompetent and mean, yeah. I do like Pope Leo XIII. He is, he's been very influential for my work in a lot of ways. The encyclical I have for this weekend is not a Leo XIII one. It comes from one of his predecessors. And again, it's on the stonecutters. Everybody should check that out, because you're starting to get these priests in Australia and other places saying, oh, it's totally okay to be a member of that group. And that encyclical pretty much lays out the law. It's wonderful. You ever bonus of Molyneux, I bet Blonde in the Belly of the Beast reverting, and you think Brittany, yeah, I can't remember her name, and probably her name's flagged now on this platform because her husband is affiliated with some protest groups in Germany. But yeah, no, it's they're like I do love the podcast done by Blonde in the Belly of the Beast on Monday. Love that one. Let's see. You went to high church Anglican services when the Novus Ordo services were awful. Do hope that does not fulfill your Sunday obligation, as I understand it. So, unless it was the Anglican ordinariate. You made it your business to visit Leo XIII's tomb in Rome when he was there in November. Hopefully, we'll get a Leo XIV before long, and hopefully, he'll live up to his namesake. Anyone homeschooling, check out Joyous Lessons. Celeste has cultivated some traditional books. Humans, regarding the Anglican Church, I'm just glad Jesus is in fact alive. Yeah. Rob Doe, yeah, you should. It's really disturbing how many of you are saying that you went to Catholic schools where you were given Protestant Bibles. It's like people need to be reminded about what St. Pius X said about Protestant Bibles. You could easily go find it. Go take a look online. It will. You'll get a good chuckle out of it. How does a person find a traditional Catholic priest? There are none in your immediate town. Most of us who go to the Latin Mass generally have to drive for it. My wife and I drive 90 miles on Sunday for Mass most of the time. LJC says to look for SSPS directories. There's a number of groups out there. I don't. And he also tells you to go look up the FSSP or the Institute of Christ the King Sovereign Priest. The Latin Mass Locator is a good one to use online. White Chocolate. What did the Klan say about Columbus? Well, they were an anti-Catholic organization, so. The strategy of the argument 100 years ago or today is the same. The class of the oppressed and the oppressor is what is interchangeable, and that is the Marxist language. There are people who try to use the oppressed language, that sort of language, to communicate with the Marxists. It's an interesting strategy. I don't know how well it works. Rodney Stark wrote a good book on Crusades called God's Battalions. Passy, do I think... what do you think about should Catholic wives works outside the home? Dave Gordon has been outspoken on this recently, maybe Tim Gordon too. I haven't watched their content. My wife's a stay-at-home wife. She's a stay-at-home mom. I do believe that we should get back to an economy where you don't need two incomes. There's no reason for it. All it has done is make us just more materialist and less happy. Alpice, I see that Tried Patrick gave 2 videos yesterday. Truly a blessing. Yes, and I watched both of them. Susie says she has to look forward. She's looking at sign off. Well, you have a nice day, Susie. You're lucky to have a church that does Latin Mass in your town. Yes, you are, Vinyl. Yes, you are. It's an hour drive for some people to get to a TLM. Your kids went to Catholic schools. They used to... Let's see. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, Hertina Vox. I think my Saturday video is going to be about that Luciferian March. That'll probably be just in time for that day, too, now that I look at the date. The pinnacle of your Bible collection is a stonecutter KJV. Oof. I would, careful with that thing. Are Knights of Columbus a secret society? Nope, they're not. Are they an exception to the rule, or is it fishy? They advertise at your church. That organization is okay. There are... Earlier in the stream, there was people in the chat talking about how the need to get good Catholic men to essentially join it to take it back. It was designed to give Catholic men an organization to join so they wouldn't find themselves joining the Stonecutters. Let's see, no. Thomas Keller does not think married women should work at all. Miss Jackson said when wife is out of the home and children are involved, the question becomes of who's raising your children. This is true. That is actually very true. Let's see. Dr. John Rao is a living Catholic historian and a trad. Yes, I've seen that. I need to make sure that I'm following him on Twitter. I need to find Catholic figures who are good to follow on Twitter. So let's just do that now. CTV National News. Let's see. All I'm getting are other people. Could be that I got blocked by the guy, although I find that unusual. Dr. John Rao lecture. Maybe he's not even on Twitter. Yeah, the Remnant is pumping out his articles right now, which is not a bad thing. All right. You can hear my kid babbling. I think he's asking for me. What is my hypothetical chronology of future events based upon Catholic prophecy? Most importantly, the third secret of Fatima, the consecration of Russia, and the Immaculate Heart. It's going to be done. I think you're going to start seeing calamity after calamity showing up in the next decade. I'm not confident about the future of anything right now. This is why, I don't think it's a bad idea for people to buy, to get some, medium to long-term food, get a firearm if you need it, that kind of thing. My thoughts on Father Dave Nix. I follow him on Twitter. It's about as familiar as I am with him. Do I watch The Vortex? I have not watched a Church Militant video in some time. Back in the 80s, you were one of 3 women who was home with your and half the neighborhood's kids. You can tell you how many cookies, cupcakes, lunches you made to go along with kissed boo-boos. The boat builders and many of the Columbus's crew were as they were being evicted from Spain. That doesn't surprise me, honestly. All right, I think I'm going to call it here just so I can get my, help my wife out with my kids' lunch. Anyway, you all folks have a nice day. Go check out that video I put up today on the, that I put up today if you haven't already. Trust me, it's all about what's going on, especially since we're now entering what looks like round 2 of the affliction. So, anyway, you have a nice day, folks, and I will see. I plan to stream Sunday in the afternoon as usual. We'll see what time.